Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and if you weren't here for the last video I posted, for the month of October, every single video I will be doing a different cosplay. Last video I posted, I was Clarice Wu from Percy Jackson. In this video, I am Logan Sanders from the Sanders Sides video over on Thomas Sanders' YouTube channel. It's an amazing series, please go check it out. But that is why I look like this today. I'm Logan, I'm the representation of logic, and I did kind of something a little unlogical, but I figured let's balance that out with this character. So remember how the last haul video I did, I said I was done with buying books for a little while? I wasn't gonna do it because I should read the books I bought? Yeah, I lied. Listen, okay, I really like deals, I really like sales, and when you have access to eBay, you find a lot of really cheap stuff. So, in order to balance that out, I decided to do an unhaul. Like, all the books I've read, didn't like, don't want to keep, I'm getting rid of them, so it balances itself out. Like, I'm gonna, like, if I read a book, I'm gonna have to decide whether or not I keep it. So that's how I am, like, saying this is justified. I bought a whole bunch of books, and I'm also getting rid of even more books, so it works out. And also, I have ink on my hands because I just filmed a drawing video. Also, that was a Clarice video. Go check that one out as well. Now, obviously, this video is going to be broken up into two sections, my unhaul and then my haul. Let's do the unhaul first, just so I can make space on my shelf. So the first book I'm getting rid of is A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. So I've read this entire series. I've even read the little novella that goes with it. This is the one I own a physical copy of. I don't have a physical copy of the second book, which is why I don't feel bad about getting rid of this one. In this book, our main character Monty, his best friend Percy, and his sister Felicia go on basically a tour of Europe right before Monty has to go and reveal himself to the court, like he has to be the next guy to take over his father's estates. While he's on this grand journey across Europe, stuff goes down. Basically, the crew of characters have to go on a run after Monty ends up stealing something, and it ends up being really important and not just a little trivial thing that he can pick up whenever he wants. The main issue I have with this book, yes, sure, I love the relationship it was like establishing between Monty and Percy because queer romances, like, I have a bit more tolerance to them than, like, straight romances, but it was fine. And it was fine, but my main issue was with the almost magic that was introduced into this series. This is meant to be a historical romance with a hint of alchemy, and alchemy was borderline magic in this book, and alchemy is science. Like, we never really, like, we claim to know alchemy, but it never actually worked out in our world. In this book, alchemy is very much real, and it very much borderlines on magic, and that's what bothers me the most about this book, is the fact that magic was introduced, and I just, if you called it magic, I wouldn't have cared, but the fact that you called it alchemy, I don't like it. So, I don't own the second copy, and while I do own the novella, I'm keeping that. I'm getting rid of book one, and it's like, it was fine, but I'm not a big fan of this cover anyway, so why keep it? Next thing I'm getting rid of is actually two books in one. So the first one is The Perfect State, and if you flip this book over, there's actually another book on the other side, which is The Shadows for Silence. No, The Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell. That's a title. So I didn't like either of these novellas. These are both Brandon Sanderson short stories. I got them for free at a convention, and I put a little sticker on the inside that's like for whatever sci-fi book he just released. And I gotta say, I really don't like either of these books. I know I just said that, but I really don't like either of these books. I think the problem was Brandon Sanderson is so used to writing grand, amazing, long stories, you can't really fit that into such a small novella. Shadow over Silence follows basically an assassin family in the middle of the woods with an inn, and then The Perfect State is like a sci-fi fantasy. Like, everyone is more or less in the Matrix, everyone has their perfect world, and our main character knows this. He knows everything's a simulation. And the simulation tells him, hey, all humans have to have one child, and the entire story is about him meeting up with a woman to have a child, and oh boy, was it disgusting, and I hated it. There was nothing adult content in this, but I just hated the way that the characters acted. I hated the way everything was set up. There's also, like, throwing in a rival, like, that wasn't well explained, and there was a lot in such a small amount of space, and I hated all of it. So, I'm getting rid of it. Next book I'm getting rid of, I feel like some people might be a little upset with me on it, but I frankly don't care, and that's Foundry Side. This is a story that a lot of people have been comparing to Six of Crows. It's not. This is a world kind of Venetian inspired. There's a bunch of merchant houses and they rule the city, but everything outside of their domain is Foundry Side. It's lawless, it's poor, it's the slums. Our main character grew up in the Foundry Side, and she is very unique in the fact that she can hear the magic of the world. Everything in this world has a very unique magic system where you're told, like, the this wheel is standing still, but the magic tells it, no, you're actually rolling downhill. So the wheel believes it's picking up momentum and moving on its own. So that's the magic in this world, and our main character can hear it and she can mess with it. It's a thief story, so she has to go steal an item, and of course it goes wrong. And it was bland. I frankly don't remember the main character's name. Like, that is how bland this story was. Everything seemed so generic and boring, and while it was interesting while reading it, after letting time pass, I can't really tell you much else about this book other than what I have. There's like a magic key involved, and like the plot twist that revealed at the end, it wasn't really a plot twist, but it kind of felt like it was a big grand reveal. I kind of don't care about that either. There's also a lot of stuff that felt like really unsettling in terms of the content and the implications, but it wasn't handled correctly, and I just, what I remember about this book, I don't like it. Next book to unhaul is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. This is a classic book. How do I describe this without spoiling it? The book opens up with a bunch of people realizing that ships around the world have slowly been sinking, and everyone kind of reports the same sighting. So a bunch of scientists and discoverers are put on a boat and sent to figure out and kill whatever is destroying all these ships. And when they get there, they realize that's not a monster in the ocean, that's a submarine. And our main character and a couple of different characters get sucked onto this submarine, and they have to be forced to do certain things, like they're forced to travel along. This reads like a scientific journal. Like, that's the best way to put it. I wanted a grand adventure story under the sea and like Atlantis and a bunch of other stuff, and I didn't really get that. Like, yes, the content was in the book, but I didn't like it. Obviously, this is a classic, and it shows its age. A lot of the way that the male characters were written is very obvious whenever this was published. I don't even remember when this was published, but it shows. Whatever time it was published, it shows. On a similar note to that, the next one to be unhauled is Pirate Latitude. So this, again, is a classic story. This follows pirates as they go on a grand adventure doing piracy stuff. This is set in, I believe, Jamaica. Why do I think it's Jamaica? Wherever Port Royal is, basically is a town that has thrived through piracy until one day a new governor comes into town and declares piracy illegal after our main characters have already left for their adventure. So we follow the story of the pirates doing their piratey stuff, but we all know by the time they get home, things are not going to end well for them. So that's kind of what the story is about. And I don't like it. I don't care about it. Once again, the male characters really show when this book was written. The female characters were really shown when this book was written. It opens up with, I don't want to call it sexual assault, but it definitely like wasn't very consensual. And while everything was more implied than actually shown, it seemed like it was very dubious consent, like things were not very good in this book. And there's also the fact that some of the representation, there's a Jewish character in the story and they only refer to him by Jew. They don't give him a name. They only refer to him by his religion, his heritage. And I'm like, this feels wrong. Everything in this book feels wrong. I wanted a fun pirate adventure and I just didn't get it. And finally, the last book I'm unhauling, you haven't heard me talk about it all, and that is because I never actually read it. That's Copper Magic. So I got this book as a gift, and I was really excited for it because it looked really cool, and the idea of the story sounded really cool. And then when I was about to read it, I Googled it because I wanted to know, like, the word count in this book. And I found out it's really offensive, and, like, everyone's saying, do not read this book. So Copper Magic, I believe, is, like, a historical fiction where some girl in the American South realizes that she finds a copper hand that's like some sort of indigenous tribe's magical item, and some magical stuff happens. And apparently everything about the natives that are portrayed in this book is really offensive and really bad, so I didn't read it at all because I didn't want that on my shelf, and now I'm getting rid of it, and someone else can have it. I don't know what's going to happen to this book. I just don't want it anymore. So those are all the books I'm unhauling. I have a smaller pile of books I did buy. One of them isn't here yet, and that is Down Among the Sticks and Bones. Now, I love the Wayward Children series. That is what this series is called. Book one is about all these kids who go into magical doorway fantasies, and they eventually stumble back into our world, and they can't quite fit into our world. So they go to a school for children who go through magical doorway fantasies. Outside of book one, Every Heart a Doorway, every single other book is for the prequels. It is for the origin stories. Where did these children from the school go to when they went to a magical realm? Down Among the Sticks and Bones, and I'm forgetting the sequel name, maybe? Okay. The Jack and Jill are the two characters I fell in love with. They went to a place known as the Morgue. And the Morgue is kind of an evil scientist vampire fantasy world. And it is their story as one of them becomes an evil scientist and the other one becomes the vampire's heir, maiden. I don't really know the term that they use. And I love this story so much. I love Jack and Jill's story. They're twin sisters and they learn their place in the world through their roles, and it was really cool. And the books are like $20 and they're less than 200 pages, so I didn't want to buy $20. And then I found on eBay that like Down on the Sticks and Bones was $5. Like I could get this really amazing story for really cheap, and so I bought it. And it's not here yet, but I mean, I'm doing a haul video, so I need to talk about it. But yes, Vampire Mad Scientist, it's Spoopy Halloween. I really wanted this book. Moving on to books I actually have to show off. The next one is Malamander. So this is a story that's like set in a coastal city in a hotel where like things are lost and found and there's magic, and our main character realizes stuff is going missing and not returning, and there might be something in the lake and there's spoopy stuff going down and there's potentially a murder on the loose. That one has been implied, but it doesn't actually say so in the synopsis. I've been saying this is a spoopy book. I don't actually know if that's true yet because once again, I haven't read it. I just really liked this cover and I really liked the idea of a lake monster, lost and found magical hotel. So I got really excited and I bought it, and it's just like, I want to read this soon. I really do. After that, I did not control myself and bought a manga. So Bleach, this lovely manga, volume 25, I grew up reading, I grew up watching the anime. I loved the series Bleach. And the ending was really bad, but because I grew up watching it, because I grew up reading it, I never actually bought the copies. The series has since ended, and while I really didn't like the ending, it meant so much to my childhood that I decided to go back and pick out my favorite moments of the story. My favorite battles, my favorite characters, my favorite moments of like when things were revealed. I mean, I know I haven't like explained the story at all. So Bleach is a story about a kid who gets Shinigami powers, which are death god powers. You slay the evil spirits, you save the pure spirits. A lot of stuff goes down, he has to save a bunch of people, things happen. But this volume specifically, our main character realizes like, oh, he has one of the evil spirits living inside of him, and he has to deal with that. So I absolutely love the evil spirit. I love the way that his character was developed and like the big reveal at the end. And this is the first time you really get to see his character. You get to see the fight between the main character and this evil spirit living inside of him. It was really cool. And I just really needed this to be the first volume that I bought because this is their entire fight. It's a very short fight, but it's a pretty cool one. Going back to novels, the next book that I bought is Hollow Kingdom. I've talked about this briefly. Hollow Kingdom is a story, it's a satire apocalypse told in the perspective of a pet crow. The first chapter of this book opens up with the pet crow's perspective, realizing that his owner is kind of acting a little funny, and like you realize through the context clue, like, oh, the owner's a zombie now, and now the crow and a dog and also like an octopus somehow gets involved, have to go on a journey during this zombie apocalypse, realizing what's going on. I don't think they're gonna save the world, but I definitely do want to see them try. Once again, I don't know if this is an ARC copy or not because it has the on sale date on the spine. I got this off of eBay, really cheap, but I'm also concerned that this might have been a copy that you're not supposed to sell. I have it now. It's mine now, but I just have no clue where it came from. And finally, the last book I have to show off is Where Dreams Descend. When I first described this book to you guys, because I have talked about it, I described it as a magical circus. That is incorrect. It is a magical theater. This takes place in a theater that it's kind of like, imagine Phantom in the Opera. It's like that. Dreams and magic and a whole bunch of wonder and potentially spoopy stuff is going down in this theater as a main character tries to achieve their dreams and not die trying. I think that sounds way more dramatic than this book is actually going to end up being. I got this copy from Owl Crate. They had a restock sale, and I was like, I really like this box of like magical like theater stuff because I'm a theater geek, obviously, and I'm like, Phantom of the Opera, and like it has totally references Shakespeare at some point, and I just like, it sounded really cool, and I really wanted it, and a restock sale, and I also got a whole bunch of like bookish knickknacks, so that was really fun as well. So yeah, I couldn't control myself because of sales, and that I need to stop doing that. So those are all the books I have today to haul and unhaul. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Once again, every Monday and Friday this month, I'll be back with a new video in a different cosplay. Today was Logan. Who knows what the next video will bring. You guys are welcome to guess down in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.